Yo, since Seekers of the Storm was just released, and we just had the 4th anniversary of Risk of Rain 2, I thought there was no better time for me to talk about why I think Risk of Rain 2 is one of, if not the best roguelite games ever. Even though the game is in a rough state right now, I'm still making this video because I love this game, and it's still my favorite roguelite to play, even in its current state. Although I do sincerely hope Gearbox will be able to fix these bugs really soon. Now I won't waste any more of your time. Let's get into why Risk of Rain 2 is, in my opinion, the best roguelike game ever. Risk of Rain 2 did something incredible. It went from a 2D platformer to a fully immersive 3D shooter, and they couldn't have done it any better. The move to 3D didn't just expand the gameplay, it redefined it. Suddenly you're not just dodging and shooting, you're navigating sprawling landscapes, managing verticality, and getting surrounded by hordes of enemies in every direction. This change made the game feel fresh and dynamic, capturing that sense of scale and danger that a 2D screen just can't convey. It's not just a sequel, it's a fully fledged evolution of the original game's concept. Risk of Rain 2 absolutely nails the roguelike gameplay loop with its endless replayability. Procedurally generated stages, random item drops, and time-based difficulty scaling ensure no two runs are ever the same. As the clock ticks, enemies get tougher and bosses become more brutal, forcing you to constantly adapt and push your limits. Plus, the game's progression system is deeply satisfying. Completing challenges unlocks new items, survivors, and even alternate abilities. Adding layers of depth to the gameplay, this constant sense of progression makes every run feel rewarding, even if you don't make it to the final boss. Risk of Rain 2 really takes the roguelite genre to new heights with its fast-paced, third-person shooter mechanics. You start off each run relatively weak, but as you progress, you collect items that can drastically increase your power. And I mean drastically. You can go from struggling against a couple of Lemurians to obliterating the whole map while simply standing still. This power progression is insanely satisfying and keeps you hooked run after run. However, it can be challenging to reach this insanely overpowered state if you don't have a lot of game knowledge, specifically how each item affects your character and which items work well on each character. Speaking of characters, let's talk about them. Since Seekers of the Storm is finally out, there are now 16 playable characters, each with their own unique abilities and playstyles. Want to get up close and personal? Try the Mercenary, who's all about melee combat and dashing around. Prefer to keep your distance? The Huntress has got you covered with her homing arrows and ranged skills. There's something for everyone, and mastering each character adds a whole new level of replayability. Then there are the items. The game boasts over 110 unique items, as well as 18 new items added in Seekers of the Storm. In Risk of Rain 2, items stack, which means their effects multiply as you find more. The combinations are endless. You can become a fire-spawning, missile-launching lizard with toxic spit if you stack the right items. Each run feels unique, and discovering new item synergies is a ton of fun. When it comes to the difficulty, Risk of Rain 2 isn't just a cakewalk. It's designed to be difficult and punishing, but in the best way possible. The difficulty scales over time, so the longer you survive, the harder it gets. This creates an intense, thrilling experience where every decision matters. Do you rush to the next stage to avoid the difficulty spike, or do you stick around to find all the loot? There is a common strategy used in regards to time versus loot, which is called the 5-minute rule. Basically, the way it works is you spend 5 minutes per stage to try and stay ahead of the difficulty. A better version of this rule I like is where you try to get one item for every minute. Using this strategy should effectively keep you equal to or stronger than your enemies. Another common strategy used by many players would be the loot everything strategy, which is pretty self-explanatory, but basically, you just try to loot every item on the stage before you leave, which, if you get lucky and are fast enough, makes this another very effective way to stay stronger than your enemies. Now, let's get into the difficulty settings. In Risk of Rain 2, from easiest to hardest, they go Drizzle, Rainstorm, and Monsoon. And there's also Eclipse 1 through 8, with each level of Eclipse having its own unique modifier on top of being Monsoon difficulty. However, Eclipse 8 has all Eclipse modifiers active at once. There's also a mod that I think is worth mentioning called Umbral Mithrix, which makes the last boss fight even harder, for players that are borderline nihilistic. Now, we can't forget about co-op. Risk of Rain 2 is arguably at its best when played with friends. Teaming up with up to 3 other players adds a whole new level of strategy and chaos. Do you split the loot evenly, or does one person become the team's powerhouse? How do you coordinate your abilities to take down bosses? Co-op isn't just an add-on, it's a core part of what makes the game so fun. The shared experience of overcoming insurmountable odds, or getting absolutely styled on, creates moments you'll be talking about long after the run ends. I absolutely cannot forget to mention that Risk of Rain 2 has mostly thrived thanks to its incredible community and mod support. The community has really stepped up, creating mods to add new survivors, items, and even game modes. This has extended the game's lifespan well beyond what most roguelites can offer, and I can't thank this amazing community enough. So, why is Risk of Rain 2 the best roguelite? It's the perfect storm of thrilling combat, endless customization, and replayability that keeps you coming back for more. Whether you're playing solo or with friends, every run feels like a new adventure full of possibilities. If you haven't tried it yet, you're missing out on one of the most engaging and addictive games out there. What do you think? Do you agree that Risk of Rain 2 is on top of the roguelite genre, or do you have another favorite? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a like and sub. Thank you for your time, and peace out.